Welcome to Your Next Level Now with your host, Bob Donnell. As a human behaviorist, Bob has helped people from every walk of life reach their next level, both personally and professionally. Whether a celebrity, professional athlete, or entrepreneur, Bob has helped them align their behavior with their desired result in their life and career. This is Your Next Level Now
Guys,
with
welcome
Bob
to Next
Donnell.
Level. Monday mornings are kind of one of my favorite days because I get to communicate with you guys, get to stay in touch with you guys, get to introduce you to new people, whether it's somebody that I've met over the years, whether it's somebody I've had close personal relationships with, or it's because it's somebody that has been introduced to me. Today, I was introduced a couple of months ago to Heidi and by Eric Swanson. And you guys know Eric and I do a lot of stuff. We share stages together and we do a lot of different events together. But one of the things he mentioned, hey, you want to talk to this gal? She's really, really interesting. And I think she's got a great story. And I said, great, let's set it up. Well, she was just about to go on vacation or something, so we didn't get to do it right away. But we did a couple of months later. And, I had the opportunity to be on her podcast, and we're going to talk about that today because I think it's a podcast that all of us can relate to, but it's also more importantly a podcast that we can all benefit from. And so maybe you're gonna watch this and you're gonna think about this from your perspective, or maybe you're gonna watch this and you're gonna think, wow, I really know somebody that needs to hear from Heidi. And so we're going to give you the contact information. We're going to give you the ways to relate or communicate with her. But that being said, Heidi Aldridge, welcome to Next Level.
Thank you, Bob. It's so good to see you again. I'm looking forward to chatting.
I had such a great time with you the other day. And I don't say that lightly, because as you know, there's a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of different styles of communicating and everything. The thing I really appreciated most about our time together the other day was the realness of who you are. And I think I even said that to you that day, as like, I just really love who you are. You just have this great presence about you. And I know that came through some refining of your life. Right. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't because your mom just made you this, or your dad just made you this. It took some work to get here. And I want to go back to that day, a couple of days after Thanksgiving, when you were 16 years old. Yeah. And you get a knock at the door and the police inform you that your father has taken his life. Right. Do you remember that day vividly?
Absolutely. Down to where you are, what you're wearing, what's happening in your life. Absolutely. Everything. Because it freezes, I think,
Yeah.
it just freezes. And I remember the police coming and saying your dad has taken his life. And my little brother, he was 7, and he was sitting on my lap, and he's like, what does that mean? And I just yelled, I'm like, Dad's dead. He's dead, because I was just so I thought, oh, probably should have been a little gentler to that 7-year-old boy, but it was so shocking that, and so I just remember that so well. But that was just a big change in our lives at that moment. You never go back.
When I was 15, we talked on your show that my mom was told that she was going to be dying of cancer in the next 6 months. And even at 15, I didn't, I was like, yeah, right. She's not going to die.
You're right.
But I wasn't presented with the fact that she's already dead and you didn't know anything about it until that knock on the door.
Right.
What does that do to a 16-year-old girl? I mean, 16-year-old boy, 16-year-old girl, regardless, but 16-year-old girl living in the conditions you were in. I don't really know those conditions, but with your baby brother and all of that. Yeah. What goes through your mind the first thing when you hear that?
Yeah, it really, lots of things go through your mind. You're just wait, no, this didn't really, first shock, you're like, this didn't just happen. This doesn't happen to me. And then it just starts piling on the reality of it, and people you have to call, and we had to go get grandma. And I have 4 little brothers, and just hugging them and holding them and crying with them, and just all the feelings. But the weirdest part is that I was actually struggling before that day myself. I was one of those that I was bullied so bad, in my younger years, that I really felt like my life wasn't worth living and that maybe the world's better off if they didn't have to look at my ugly face. And so I was already struggling with these thoughts of suicide every day, and just dealing with that. Our dad had left the house a year before, and we were talking about kind of reunification and just trying how we're going to continue, and visiting and all the things. But his suicide note said, "You'll all be better off without me." And that hit me the most, finding that out, because that's when I was like, that's not true, and that's when I realized, wow, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's wrong thinking. And I get how you can get to that place, it's so negative. But so yeah, there was a lot of feelings and a lot of guilt when it's a suicide. You just feel like, what could I have done better? What could I have done different? How could he have known, that things would get better, or that we love him and that we do need him, and that, all the things. And so suicide's a lot harder for those left behind, of just the guilt of wishing that you could have done something else. And it was 2 days after Thanksgiving, and it was hard when the police said, they went to his apartment helping clean it out and saw a TV dinner, a turkey TV dinner in his trash can. And I just thought, nobody was with him on Thanksgiving. Like, nobody, like, we went and hung out with some family friends, but he didn't come with us. And I'm just like, nobody reached out to him. Like, he was all alone. And so ever since then, it's just been, like I said, lots of thoughts and feelings that day, but just finding out more and more information. And just like, I don't want anybody to be alone on Thanksgiving. Like, that's not going to happen. And I remember just going back to school, after getting the news. It was Saturday after Thanksgiving, and I went back to school on Monday. And I just remember like seeing people in the halls and just being like, I see you. Like, I see pain in these teenagers' eyes now, like I was kind of caught up in my own life and my own thoughts and feelings. And I remember going back to school and being like, wow, all these people, are surrounding me all day. And maybe they have stories, maybe they have struggles, maybe they have something that they're dealing with and hurting. And so I just kind of made it my mission then to just be friends with people and reach out to people, and just, I don't want another suicide on my hands, It just
Right.
was kind of a different thinking probably than most people, but that's
Mhm.
that's what it did to me.
Since
Yeah.
then, you have kids of your own.
Yeah.
You're married, you have a life, you've weathered the storm, so to say.
Yeah.
Um, what's Thanksgiving like for you today?
Yeah, it's been like 33 Thanksgivings since that day. But yes, we still gather. It's me and my brothers and their wives and their kids, and now their kids' kids. And so it's like the whole like 50 of us, gather. And of course we haven't the past couple of years, but it has just been just a reunion every year, and just checking on each other and checking in. I'm very, very close with my four younger brothers. We've lived within a few hours of each other, and we just are always checking in anyway. But
Mhm.
especially Thanksgiving, we always kind of reminisce, and we always talk about dad when we get together, and how things were and the great memories and things before that Thanksgiving in
Yeah.
1989. And yeah, so now, yeah, we definitely get everybody together, and I'm very open, with my kids, and just teaching them and helping them. I've definitely struggled since that day with just depression and suicidal thoughts again that have come
Sure.
up later. Just got married really young. I got married like 2 years after my dad died. I got married at 18, so I think that's young.
Mm.
Had a kid at 19, just jumped right into life and having a great time. Um, and so it's been, yeah, it's definitely had some issues over the years of struggles I've had, and those thoughts come back in, and it's been rough.
So what did you do? Because it's one thing to have a tragedy like that
Yeah.
and then go into depression. It's another thing to have depression before that, have the tragedy, and then continue the depression and even magnify it. What did you do to overcome it at that point?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it does feel like it kind of comes and goes like a little roller coaster, the ups and downs. I'm definitely out of it now, but I think the biggest problem was I didn't get a lot of help right when it happened. I felt like I
Mhm.
was resilient and strong, and my dad died, and I kind of went back to school with like this positivity, and I'm going to help people. And, had a great couple of years in high school, and was drama club president, spoke at my graduation, had a lot of friends, had a sweet boyfriend, just had the life. and then went off to college and met my husband at that point, got married really quick with him, and just jumped into life, as married college students, poor, and it just started kind of weighing on me, and getting pregnant within the year, and then just kind of just life just kind of sets in. And I just started getting, I think I had postpartum depression for sure after my first baby that I never got taken care of, and it just got, it only, I remember it was like 5 years after my dad died when I was like, wow, that's been a long time now, I should be doing really well. And I was kind of feel like I was sinking back at that point. And I was able to get some therapy and get some help. But then I went through infertility after that. And so I sunk back down again, and the hormones and just the, I'm not good enough and I'm not a good enough mom. I can't have any more kids because I'm a terrible mom, and just the thoughts and the negativity comes in again. And I had to get more therapy and more medication. And, it just like never ends. But at that point is when I finally decided, this was in 1999. I was dealing with infertility for several years, and I was so discouraged and beating up on myself that I actually had a friend tell me she couldn't be around me anymore because I was so negative.
Wow.
And then you're like, oh, I need to get back to that person I was 10
Mm.
years ago. I'm just like, I'm really negative again. I can feel myself like nothing's good, nothing's right. I was like the opposite of the power of positive thinking. I had the power of negative thinking, and I'd bring negativity to my life because I was certain that yesterday was a good day, today was going to be bad, So I would look for the bad, look for the negative, felt picked on, poor me, kind of spiraling at that time. And when she said that, I was just, again, it was that wake up call I needed, I think, it kind of took me back to when my dad died. And I was like, you know what, I need to be better. And that's when I started a radio talk show, was at that point, because I just needed help to talk to other people that have
Yeah,
been through hard things and
it's
hear
true.
how they got out of them and what are they doing now because of them, because that's so inspiring.
I love the fact that you took something bad, used it for a good, and I think that's one of the best healing powers
Right.
we can ever give ourselves, is to be able to take something bad, make it into something good, and then to teach it to others, right? To help others in that process.
That's what you
Um,
did. You're so
well,
good at
yeah,
that.
and
I
and
love
and
that.
likewise, I mean, what a testament you are to resiliency, what a testament you are to perseverance, but also a testament to who you are today.
Yeah.
It's that process that you said, I'm going to make it, like I always say, a return on my investment, or
Yeah.
I'm going to make it an expense. Let's
Yeah.
pick one. So congratulations on that. When you talk about this, I remember reading about habits of happiness.
Yep.
Can you kind of talk about what your habits of happiness are? I mean,
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's habits. I know why Eric Swanson fell in love with that, Habitude Warrior, but the idea of habits of happiness. What a great way of looking at developing something that can be there over the course of time, not just at a given moment.
Right. And I was a really big why me-er at the time, why me? Why did this happen to me? And what did I do? And I take my vitamins and I say my prayers and why me, and you just feel so picked on. And then I'm just like, now I'm like, well, why not me? Like, that's life. Like, bring it on. Let's do this,
Right.
So that's a big difference too. And I was also, I'll be happy when, that was kind of always my thing, me and my husband. And I'll be happy once I get married, and then I get married and I'm like, oh, this is kind of crazy. I'll be happy once we graduate college, and when we graduate college, and okay, I'll be happy when we really get a good job. It's always the next thing that would be my happiness. And
Yeah.
so I learned several years, about 20 years ago, about habits of happiness and different things we can do to improve our happiness. It's not something we get to. It's not something we arrive at. It's not a destination. It's
Mhm.
something already in us. It's a way to travel, and I needed to tap into that because I had totally lost all the happiness. So for me, my habits are so simple, but they're things that you do that you almost don't even realize you do anymore. Like people ask me, I'm like, doesn't everybody write in their journal? Doesn't everybody exercise? Doesn't everybody, and you just kind of like forget that you're doing these kind of special things because they just are your habits and they're just what you do. Just like you don't get up every day deciding if you're going to get dressed or not. Like, should I get dressed today? I don't know if I have time for that. I don't know if that fits into my schedule. Like, it's a habit. You get up and you get dressed.
Right.
And so we need to make some of these things such habits that we don't even think about them. It's just we can't imagine not getting dressed or not brushing our teeth because
Right.
it's just what you do. And so I've had to learn to make some of these things like just how I live my life. And
Mm.
I definitely was a time when I didn't do these things, but it does help now. But I think a lot of them are gratitude and forgiveness and
Mm.
watching my thoughts, not believing everything I think, and then trying to see everything as a gift in life and like, what
Mm.
is this doing for me instead of why is this happening to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those kind of habits. Yeah.
You know, let's talk about forgiveness because it's one of your habits, right?
Yeah.
I think what I found in all of my study of human behavior has been that guilt and shame are probably two of the most devastating things that we can do to ourselves. And it's a dark hole to climb out of when you feel guilty about something or you feel shameful about something. And in today's climate, there's all kinds of cancel this and cancel that. And
Self-care, things that are
self-care.
just
I
all
mean,
about you. Yeah.
and when you think about this guilt and shame, what are your recipes for helping people with either guilt and or shame?
Yeah, I think that they're good thing to have to make you change. And that's it. It's not something we need to dwell on and wake up every day and bring into the next day. It's
Yeah.
like you can have that guilt and shame to make you want to change and then be done with it. Let it
Mm.
be done. It's served its purpose. And so for me it's really hard. Obviously, I've been through my own guilt trips and things that I've had to deal with, but forgiving myself has been a really big thing I have to work on every day is just being kind to that little girl
So
who
it's
didn't
not a
know
one
any
and
better.
done.
I wish I could say that. It kind of comes back up.
I hear you.
And we do dumb stuff again after we think that we won't. And then we still do. And yeah, and then we beat ourselves up and every day you just have to be nice to that little girl, be nice to that little boy, and just be like, be kind and understanding and give grace and just be understanding that people and do dumb stuff and sometimes you're conscious of it and sometimes you're not.
Hmm.
Sometimes you make accidents and things happen, but other times you're like specific about things that are hurtful and negative and you shouldn't do them and that, and beating yourself up every day doesn't solve that. And so for me, I always think of the girl Elizabeth Smart. She was kidnapped when she was 14 and she was gone for like 9 months and had terrible things happen to her.
Terrible.
And I remember reading her book, and her mom told her when she got found and she'd come back, of like, don't give that kidnapper one more day. He
Hmm.
took 9 months of your life. Don't bring him in to the rest of your life by thinking about it and holding yourself back because of it. And so I think of that advice as I think about forgiveness and go, if she can do that, she can forgive someone who did horrible things to her as a little child. Like I can forgive, my sister-in-law who was being really jerky to me or something like that. I'm just like, what? I don't need to bring this into tomorrow and have it affect me and hold me down. And I've learned that not forgiving just only hurts us. It doesn't
Hmm.
hurt. Half the time, the other person doesn't even know.
Right.
They really don't. Oh, Heidi's mad at me. I had no idea. They don't care. So I'm just like, what? I'm not going to give them that power. I'm not going to give them one more day. And so for me, it's easier to kind of let things roll off and just go, you know what? I'm not going to give my energy to this person or this damaging thing. I'm not going to bring it into tomorrow. I just don't want it to bring me down anymore.
Forgiveness is one of those things that just, man, it's one of the things that I admire most when somebody can. And a very good friend of mine, um, Azim Kamisa, his son was murdered by a 14-year-old gangbanger while he's delivering pizza. And he went on this thing of forgiveness, and he's been sequestered with the Pope and talked about forgiveness. He's been on every national news station, international. The guy's just an amazing guy. And I remember one night we're having a private dinner, and I do these private dinners with different people, and I asked him, I said, does it ever Like, I know you've forgiven him. I get it. I get it. I've heard your talks. I've read your books. I get it. But does it ever come back up and you just start feeling angry at one point or another? And he said, no.
No.
And I said, really? He goes, that's how I know I've forgiven. See, if it ever comes back, Bob, I haven't forgiven.
Right.
And I went, it's a tough one for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah.
I'm better at it today than I was. And yet I can still say forgiveness is a tough one. And it's, I think it's tougher to forgive ourselves than it is to forgive someone else sometimes.
Absolutely.
What's the recipe for forgiving yourself?
You know what? For me, I've had to just be nice. And I look at it as how would I treat my best friend, and if she was talking that way about herself and I'm a terrible person and I'm such a loser and I'm so horrible, I can't believe I'd be like, dude, I wouldn't hang out with you if you were that terrible, and you're like, you are an amazing person. I see all these great qualities in you. And so like, we need to kind of be able to talk to ourselves that way because we're like, we have to live with ourselves every day. And so we need to be nicer to ourselves. And I struggle with that. Obviously, we all do, but it's a practice. Forgiveness is a practice and a habit that we can learn to be quicker to forgive when we do something that we think is terrible and bad. And we need to be kind to ourselves as we would like our best friend or that little child that's just learning, and then we learn and we know better. And then we need to make better choices. But I think for me, forgiveness has been something that it's so much less painful. Like it feels like you're really carrying a load. Like you can finally just stand up and be like, oh, this is so much lighter to not carry this hate into tomorrow.
Yeah.
It serves no purpose. It serves no purpose. I'm teaching forgiveness right now. I just taught it this week in this course that I'm teaching. And I show people like holding a bottle of water. And I sit there and hold the bottle of water. And I say, okay, I'm holding this bottle of water. How long can I hold this? They're like, hold it for a while. Like, it's not heavy. It's 16 ounces of water. It's not heavy. Right. And I said, but what is it preventing me from doing? Is I'm holding on to this water. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, your hand's not free. You're not, you're not able to do really anything because you're, and I said, yeah. And one other person said, and you're concentrating on it. That's what you're thinking about. So I'm like, yeah. So it holds up my hand and it holds up my mind to hold this bottle of water all day long because I'm going to carry it because I'm mad and I'm hurt and I'm going to carry that. And so then I set down the water. I said, wow, look how that is. Look how that feels. I'm like, the water's still there. It's just fine. So you can still have the hate and the anger. You don't have to forget what happened to you. Like, no, you're not going to bring that person back into your life. You're not going to, oh, it's fine. I'm going to let somebody treat me like that. No, you can still remember that you made a mistake or that somebody hurt you. Right. You don't have to carry it. You don't have to have your hand gripped around it and your mind focused on it all day long. Just set it down. You can come back and check on it if you want to. It'll still be there. But just don't carry it. Don't carry it into tomorrow. And so that's a visual for me that I remember every day. Like, I don't need to bring this into today. Today's a new day. I can meet new people, do new things. I don't need to bring that hate with me today. Put down the water bottle.
If I were to describe what you do, what you teach, and how you do that to a perfect stranger, what would you like to be said about you?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I would hope that it would be positive. I want to be positive now. I've been negative. I was negative for a long time. I would hope that being around me is able to uplift or give new thought to something that maybe you weren't sure about before or struggled with. And I think with the lemonade stand and taking life's lemons and making lemonade, I try to live my life taking the lemons and making lemonade. What is the gift that this is bringing in my life? How is this working for me? And so I'd hope that as people are around me, they would see that I'm trying to do that. I'm not perfect and nobody is. And we keep saying that all the time. We're not perfect. But I think people look at me and go, oh, you're so happy. You don't have any problems. You don't have anything goes wrong in your life. Like, you're so great. And you're too good for me to hang around with because I don't get your vibe. You're just like too happy. I'm like, wow, that is not what I'd want people to think of me. Yeah. I would hope that people would want to be around me and we could learn from each other. And that's why I talk to people about their lemons to lemonade, because we learn from each other and we can inspire each other. We need to do that. So
I
does that
love
answer your
the,
question?
yeah, it does. I love the spelling of lemonade stand.
Yes, you caught that.
I did.
That's good.
I love that. So can you explain what the
Yeah.
spelling is and why you did that?
Yes, I love that. It was funny because this was my radio talk show back in 1999. And I remember I was telling my mom about it, like, Mom, I want to talk to people who've taken challenges and made the world better. You know, somebody's had something hard and bad and like now they're good. And she's like, oh, like taking lemons and making lemonade. I'm like, I hate that saying. That's so stupid. Like, it sounds
I
so trivial and sounds so
get
lame.
it.
It's so much harder than that. And she's like, no, but it's not. Like, people who really have done that have found ways to make the world better and beautiful and sweet. So I'm like, you know what? That is really the best description for what I'm doing. And so I called it the lemonade stand, but I changed it to be spelled lemon aid, AID, because it's not about a sweet drink. It's not about lemonade,
Mm,
as great as that is for everyone. It is lemon aid, like band aid, first
mm,
aid. I'm hoping it's something that helps
mhm.
and that fixes, problems, or something more like give aid to help
Right.
someone instead of, and so it's lemon aid. So it's help for when you're dealing with challenges and struggles and hardships in your life, and hopefully encourage you to know that you can get through them and you can make them sweet because of what you went through. That's how I got that.
I love that. I love it. What are the different ways that you like people to gain access to your information? Is it online courses? You mentioned you're teaching something right now.
Yeah, I'm
Are there
teaching.
books? Where do you like people to digest your information?
I have my website, Heidi's Lemonade Stand, spelled AID, Heidi's Lemonade Stand, and my podcast, Heidi's Lemonade Stand, and Instagram and Facebook, all Heidi's Lemonade Stand. But I teach a local course in Utah. I'm in Orem, Utah, and so I teach a 5-week course, and it'll start up again in January at the university, Utah Valley University.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I teach that as a kind of a continuing education type thing. And so people sign up for this 5-week course and we deep dive into gifts of happiness where we can talk
Mm,
about gratitude and body image and forgiveness and watching our thoughts and seeing everything as a gift. Each one's broken down into 5 weeks and we deep dive and hopefully help inspire people to just get through whatever they're going through.
that's
But yeah,
awesome.
I don't really have my just have my podcast I love to do. I've
Yeah.
over 250 interviews now that I've done of just incredible people that
Mm,
I am better talking to people and learning from them. And so if I can go out and give that message, I'm a motivational speaker, so people hire me to come talk to their businesses or their groups, and I love that because then I can just really tell stories and connect with people that way too. So it's pretty fun.
if you could be if you could come in and talk to a company on one thing and one subject only, what would that subject be of your choosing?
Oh my goodness. You know what? It might have to just be gratitude. I just barely did that last week. Had to choose one and I had 20 minutes. And so I did this deep dive into gratitude because I feel like as we just kind of find something good in each day and savor the moments, look at things as a miracle, and just kind of give that award of like the best thing that's happened today and really turn our focus because I've been there. I've been like proving it's a bad day and oh, yep, that's a bad day because of that. And now it's even worse because of this. And now it's even, but we can change that and do the opposite. We can go, it's a good day and look at it's a sunny day. And then look, I
Mm,
got all my errands done in time. And look, and you can just start adding on and adding on of like, it's good, it's good, it's good. And I don't like to label stuff good and bad anyway, because I think it all has a purpose. But that's one of the things is just gratitude. Just love every day. Find something in every day that's good
mm.
to be grateful for. So that would probably be my one thing. But there's a lot.
Aside from your kids and your family
Oh,
today, what's the biggest thing you're grateful for?
other than like life and kids and family. Oh man. I'd probably say grateful for opportunities. Just
Mm,
grateful for just things that come at you.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
nice.
Like this. Grateful to meet you today and be able to do this. So, yeah,
Okay.
grateful in the moment for everything that's happening.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And I absolutely love, and I told you I adore you.
Yeah, you're great.
You are just an amazing
Same.
person, and just really appreciate who you are on top of everything that you do. So thank you for being that person.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to open it up for some questions, and we've got some people online as well. So if you guys are watching online, you want to type in a question, you can, especially if you're a member of Facebook or if, Next Level by Association. But I know Flo.
Wow.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing today. Just it's a story, and then your lemonade stand. I mean, that's really so you just came up one day with a podcast to say, I'm gonna just talk about lemonade and
Yeah, that's actually, I didn't make that very clear. I'm sorry. Back in 1999, is when the friend told me that I was too negative and she couldn't be around me anymore. And
mm,
so at that point, I decided, like, wait, are people not negative? Like, are there people that are going through hard things that are happy about it? And so I decided to go out and like look around me, and I started meeting these amazing people. And so then I'm like, you know what? People need to hear these stories. They need to hear that this average ordinary person has gone through this really hard thing, and now she's started this support group, or now she's done this great thing, or he's written a book, or and so I went to the local radio station and I said, I have an idea for a radio talk show, and I'm going to call it Heidi's Lemonade Stand, and I'm going to interview people who have taken life's lemons and made lemonade and taken a challenge and overcome it, and what they're doing to make the world better. And so they're like, okay. So I was on the air like a month later, and I'd never even done anything like that before. And I was like, now what do I do? So it was a little bit of a learning curve, but it was really fun. And I did that for a year. And then I was able to get pregnant. I was telling you that I wasn't able to have any more kids. I had
mm,
this miracle baby. And so I signed off on my radio show. I'm like, you know what? She's due in 2 weeks. Like, I've got to
Mm.
take a break, go home, and be with this little miracle of mine that's coming now that I've waited so long for. And then 20 years later, I finally started the podcast. So I took a 20-year break. But in 2020, I really felt like it was time to bring back the lemonade stand, because we were starting to really spiral into a lot of stuff going on in the world then. And I'm like, we need inspiring stories again. Like, we gotta. And so I've gone back and
mm.
reached out to those original people that I did radio interviews with 22 years ago, and doing updates with them, and found out they've had more lemons in the past 20 years. Imagine that.
Wow.
And so that's been good. And so, yeah, so since 2020, I've had the podcast 2 years almost. Like, this month will be my 2-year mark, and
Oh, congratulations.
meeting all these amazing people again. And now it's better than the radio show because it can reach the world. Like,
Yeah.
any people in Australia are listening to my podcast, where the radio was just the local Utah radio station. So this has actually been a lot better to be able to interview people from across the world
Mm.
and be able to meet amazing people. So that's kind of where that. So sorry, I didn't make that very clear,
No,
but
no, that was
that's where
cute.
the lemonade stand got continued. It was to be continued from 1999 to now.
All right. Thanks for sharing today.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're gonna wrap this up, and then Heidi, you and I can stay on. Flo will be on, I'm sure. But Heidi, as you go forth in your life, what's next? What's the next level for you?
That's a really good question. I have so many people asking me to write a book, so I don't know if that'll happen. I
Okay.
can't say that yet, but that would be cool if I could wrap my head around that. So that's probably, but I think interviewing more people, I have a goal for another 100 people this year. And so I'm excited
100
about
people
that.
in a year.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 100
So
people.
who's on the top of that list?
You know what? I don't really interview a lot of famous people as much, because people know those stories, you know? And
Right.
so I'm finding just the average next door neighbor that has been through something and started a support group, or written a book, or done something just life changing for those around them, that I've interviewed. I just can't even believe. I mean, you and your story, like, it's just amazing, the people that I'm able to meet and what they've been through. And it's way worse than anything I could have,
Hmm.
imagined going through, and just how inspiring they are. And so I want to interview another 100 people, and then I just want to keep speaking now that, the pandemic's over and I'm able to get on stages again. I have like 5 speaking gigs scheduled, the next month, and I just love being able to get with people and
Hmm.
just connect and talk to people and inspire groups of people that can then go on and take it home and inspire their family and uplift each other. That's my goal.
Final question. What if I were to take your husband and maybe your oldest child and say, tell us something about your mom that you appreciate the most. What do you think they would say?
Oh my goodness. They would probably say that I love to serve. They're always like blown away. They always just kind of tease me in a way, you know. I'm just like, of course, my husband will come in, I'll be making dinner at like noon, and he's like, oh, who are you taking dinner to today? Like he just knows, like if I'm putting together a little package, oh, who's getting that today, you know? I run and go buy flowers, and he's like, oh, who's going to be the recipient of that? And so they would probably both, and my son too, you know, they would both say that you're just always out doing something for somebody, and they just are always kind of keeping up and watching what I do. So that's probably what they'd say. I love to do that.
What a great thing for your children and your spouse to say about you.
I don't want to brag or anything, but that's probably not that they're annoyed by it, but I definitely have made my kids do that too. I've raised, 3 kids, 1 son and 2
Right.
daughters, and they got, they had to do, well, Mom, what are we doing now? Who are we taking this to? Who are we,
Yeah.
And they had to learn. They learned that from a very young age of just serving and helping, and hopefully they're still doing it with their families too. I see that in them. They have little kids. I'm a grandma to 5, and I see that they're out doing things for others too, and I love that. So it's
That
good if
is
they can
awesome.
think of something positive from me, then that's a good thing.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing that. That's
Thank you.
that's an awesome thing to be known for, especially among your closest members of your family. So
They'd probably
um
say I used to complain a lot, though. They'd say that too. I don't do that anymore, though. But they're used to me complaining a lot. So
I get it. I
that's
get
good
it.
now that I can be known as service. That's better.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, guys, fall in love with her. Just
You're so
read
sweet.
more about her, go to her website, listen to some of her podcasts, listen to some of the ones where she's been interviewed on. And I know you'll just fall in love with her, and I know that you'll want to know more. So keep doing that, guys. Get out there, make it a great week, and enjoy your next level. Thanks again, Heidi.
Love that. Thank you.
You've been listening to Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell. To find out more, call us at 949-542-6398. That's 949-542-6398. Or you can find more information on our website at everythingnextlevel.com. That's everythingnextlevel.com.